The thing about Botox is it's the most dangerous toxin known to mankind. It was classified as a biological war material. Medical studies have proved that the toxin does spread, and not only that, but it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So once it's in your brain, it causes neurological damage. The paralyzing effect of Botox is so bad because if it escapes from the injection site, it can paralyze anything. It can paralyze your gut, it can paralyze your bladder, it can paralyze your heart, which of course would cause a cardiac arrest. And most dangerously, it can paralyze your lungs. Why would you want to inject something like that into your body? There are more and more medical studies coming out proving that this toxin is extremely bad for the body. Once you have been through the living hell of Botox illness, you will understand just how bad it is.
You're listening to Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast, and I'm your hostess, Diane Kaiser, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, former pro soccer player, transformational leader, holistic healer, and life purpose coach, helping you and your business awaken to your full potential. We are a transformation tribe of visionaries empowering passion-quenching, heart-centered advice to wellness warrior leaders on self-love, nutrition, mindset, and divorcing perfectionism. Our mission is to help you laugh your way to a sexy belly, love your way to vitality, and live your life with purpose by sharing real talk and truth drops that will help you cleanse your body, heal your hormones, and ignite your life. Side effects of this podcast may include all-day energy, happy hormones, perfect poops, increased confidence, becoming your own best healer, and catching the self-love virus. There's currently no vaccination to protect you from this and no known cure. In most cases, listeners experience a strong desire to accept new challenges, ditch toxic people, follow their heart, and dance like no one's watching. If you experience moods happier than usual, live it unapologetically and share with your social media friends immediately. Hey warriors, here's just a little bit of information as to why I did this episode and why I brought in Janae to talk about Botox. So you're gonna listen to this episode toward the end. You're going to hear me completely perplexed and parts of me paralyzed to learn that the likely symptoms that I thought were because of my breast implants were probably because of Botox injections. I had had a really heavy dose of Botox injections 2 months before my symptoms got really, really bad, and I ended up in the urgent care needing prednisone twice, which barely scratched the surface of getting rid of some of the most paralyzing symptoms I've ever experienced in my life. And there's a lot of things that I want you to learn in this episode, that if you have done Botox and if you have side effects and symptoms, it's probably not something that you ate. It's probably not something that you got genetically. It's probably not just something that you're allergic to in the air. This kind of stuff happens literally moments after you've had Botox injected in your body. And contrary to popular belief, it does spread from the site of injection. I still am told by many people at med spas that it does not travel beyond the injection site, and this is a lie. Even the FDA in 2009 has put a warning out that says that it does spread beyond the area of injection, and it does travel to the brain. This is what's causing a lot of neurological damage. It's causing a lot of babies to be sick because it's being passed down through the fetus. It is also causing a lot of issues with skin rash, feeling like you have creepy crawls underneath your skin, which is exactly what happened to me. I felt very itchy. It was all over. And this is something that I want you to understand. You'll hear in this episode, it's not just a one-time injection. It's a toxic bucket thing where over time, it is said that Botox may never even leave the body. We don't know that. And actually, we can't even prove that these double-blind studies, we can't establish the long-term safety of a drug. A black box warning that in September 2009, after 20 years of use, finally the FDA issued this warning that the toxin was issued indicating that Botox could cause death and disability. And it's not unusual to have this sort of symptom with people that unknowingly and are not told by people who are injecting them. And the second thing is that Botox is actually, you'll learn this, a biological weapon. That's why it was created. It's been around for about 100 years or so. And it was actually developed and used as a biological weapon. The Japanese fed their prisoners botulinum cultures in the 1930s with fatal effects. And then also what they saw is that United Nations inspection team visited Iraq after the 1991 Gulf War. They reported that Iraq admitted to having 19,000 liters of concentrated botulinum toxin, enough to kill the entire human population 3 times by inhalation. This is the #1 most toxic substance known to man. Why are we injecting it in our bodies? And why is it being recommended to paralyze parts of our bodies so we don't feel pain? it is being injected what you're going to find 20 times higher concentrations for medical reasons and cosmetic reasons. And this is why so many people are getting very sick from it. And I've gotten several private emails from people saying that their child was injected and severely disabled, and they will never be the same again. These are not just once in a while stories. These are people getting very sick from it. It's not everybody that is going to have the same symptoms, but we will all get sick from this because it becomes a toxic load thing. And there is no known way to detox Botox from the body. A lot of the things that are being triggered is Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, autoimmune disease, not realizing that these toxins are triggering a cascade of symptoms inside the body, especially if you have a predisposed disposition to autoimmune disease. So if you have it in the family, you have a higher risk of these things affecting you. Same thing with breast implants. So you're going to see all of these articles and references below if you're listening to this on my website, which is dianekaiser.com. So be sure you go there to get the rest of this information. And also just realize too that you're told that Botox lasts for 6 months. It is mostly highest concentrated in your body during these 6 months, but it does take 5 years plus if it ever does leave the body. And we still do not have a safe, effective way to detox it from the body. And the last thing I will say is that there are 3 things in Botox injections. Is the botulinum toxin, number 1. Of course, many of us react to that. Number 1 most toxic substance known to man. The second thing is human albumin, that's blood. And so the blood concentrations that they're using, who is it coming from? Do they have viral activity? Are they sick? That also could create a cascade of autoimmune disease inside of our body because that's non-self. And then the third thing is it has lactose in it. So if you're lactose intolerant, you might be reacting to that or the other 2 things inside of the injection. So listen to this entire episode. This is a $4 billion industry. This is the number 1 most performed things performed in cosmetic med spas and beyond. And it needs to be challenged. There are, yes, less toxic injections, but we are still finding that even people are responding to those negatively. So please listen to this episode. The question that I'm getting is Botox safe will be covered and beyond, and we will also have a part 2. So if you have any questions during this, write them down, send them to me, dianekaiser.com/ask, because we will have a part 2, which is solutions on how to possibly detox, what you can do, what to look out for, and how also you might also be able to reduce wrinkles in your body and do this naturally without worry that you're injecting yourself with the most toxic substance known to man. So without further ado, let's talk to Janae.
Hey, beauty warriors. Welcome to another episode of Cleanse, Heal, Ignite. And I am Diane Kaiser. I am joined here today with Janae, and she is where are you right now?
I'm in Brighton in the UK.
Brighton. I think that's my favorite brand of purses. And I was just in the store yesterday. Today we're not talking purses. Today we are talking something very personal, though. So many of you guys have been following me for a while, and you know that I've had my breast implants removed. You know that they have made me very ill. You know that I've been helping a lot of women in the transition of taking them out, preparing to take them out, and cleansing their body after they have them removed. And most importantly, helping them with the root cause of why we get these things to begin with. Because it's not that we're born thinking that we need to get breast implants. We're not born thinking, oh, I need Botox. We are culturally conditioned to fear aging and anything other than perfection. And so this is not something that I'm okay with accepting as a status quo. And so what Dene is going to talk about today is something very personal to her. And I would just like to say that before any of you judge us as the quote unquote 2 crazy women who are just speaking out a bunch of stuff that is untrue, there are hundreds of thousands of women and men also all around the world coming together in Facebook groups, just like Danae is going to talk about today. And you will hear the truth and see the truth of many people who have suffered from Botox illness, breast implant illness, and med spa botches in general. So welcome to the show. And I just love to get started with how you got so concerned about putting Botox as a lethal substance to all of us.
Well, I had Botox for a few years, no side effects. And then I had injections and I started getting mild side effects, which I didn't realize were from the Botox. In 2015, I had more injections and I ended up losing my vision and I was bedridden. I was catastrophically ill from toxin spread.
Wow. This is something that people are not hearing about? And also, I would imagine, was your first instinct to think, okay, it was breast implants or it was Botox? Was that your first instinct, or were you thinking maybe it's aging or maybe it's something else?
I had no idea when I had the original light symptoms. I had no idea. I was feeling anxious and tired and dizzy and shaky, and I thought it was my blood pressure. I had no idea at all. But after my last injections in 2015, I could not even walk. I couldn't function. I had a total and utter body breakdown. It was really, really, really serious, and it's taken me almost 5 years to recover.
5 years.
5 years.
Now, on top of that, you had your breast implants. So it's very important that we all realize that in this episode, you're going to learn more about this lethal injection and the number one most toxic substance known to man. And what we're told is that it's okay. We're told that it doesn't move away from the site. We're told that over time you can use it over and over and it will never have an accumulated effect. But what you hear me talk about so much is that there is this toxic burden. And so it's just like this cup, right? Everybody loves coffee. So let's just put some coffee in this cup, right? It's kind of like when you're thinking about your life, you start here as a baby, and the average baby today is born with 250 plus chemicals already in their body without even having taken their first breath. This is coming from the mother. And so mothers out there who are doing Botox, who are doing breast implants, this is, again, not an episode to shame you. It's to awaken you so that you can make better choices and really, truly understand the truth because they're not being told to you. So we're born, let's just say that an eighth of this cup is filled already with toxins, right, as a baby. And then over time, food and chemicals and the environment that we're breathing in, personal care products, different things that we're applying to our skin, like skincare products or anti-aging routines, Botox, breast implants, this eventually just accumulates to a toxic load. So one thing I want to be very clear on today and ask you a question about is that we talk about this like toxic load and toxic burden, overall toxic burden. It is said that in this whole med spa world right now and cosmetic, procedures, that breast implants or specifically Botox were just the straw that broke the camel's back versus it just being an isolated incident that it's one chemical, it's possibly causing the side effects we're going to talk about next. What is your take on that?
Well, the thing about Botox is it's the most dangerous toxin known to mankind. It's was classified as a biological war material. So that speaks a lot. And as you were talking about the toxin not spreading from injection site, etc., medical studies have proved that the toxin does spread. And not only that, but it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So once it's in your brain, it causes neurological damage. And this is now being linked to things like Gulf War syndrome, because, they're now saying that soldiers got injections, anti-botulism toxin injections in case they were, injected with this or it was in the air or whatever. And they developed this Gulf War syndrome, which is similar to what people experience when they have Botox illness. So how can they possibly say that this is safe? Yeah. Most of the symptoms are to do with the brain and the nervous system. So what the toxin does is it binds to your nerves. And of course, once it leaks out of the injection site and travels around the body, it's going to go into the brain and cause neurological symptoms. And this will be like shaking and brain fog and terrible anxiety and twitches and forgetfulness and headaches and pain all over the body. I mean, neurological symptoms aren't just affecting the brain, they affect the whole body. And of course, the paralyzing effect of Botox is so bad because if it escapes from the injection site, it can paralyze anything. It can paralyze your gut, it can paralyze your bladder, It can paralyze your heart, which of course would cause a cardiac arrest. And most dangerously, it can paralyze your lungs. And there are a lot of cases of people having to be rushed into ER because they go into respiratory arrest because their lungs have become paralyzed. Your autonomous nervous system, which of course controls your breathing, your heartbeat, going to the toilet, your digestion, everything becomes affected. So all these things can become affected and can also become paralyzed, which is extremely dangerous. They don't tell you this, of course. They don't tell you the risks of these injections. And this is what makes it so terribly, terribly dangerous. Gulf War syndrome, same kind of side effects these people get, all sorts of strange malfunctions of the brain and body. So your entire body gets affected by this. It's extremely dangerous. It affects your gut. It kills your gut bacteria.
Wow.
That affects your neurotransmitters, of course, in your brain. So as well as doing damage in the actual brain, it's affecting everything. Why would you want to inject something like that into your body?
Exactly. In the name of beauty. I want to ask a question about this too, because I hear a lot of, rebuttals, devil's advocate I'm playing right now, because a lot of people go, well, everything causes cancer. Everything disrupts. Like I've heard this about plastic. In California, we have signs everywhere that says this product may cause cancer. And so we have been now trained that everything is kind of toxic. So what I hear also people saying is, well, I'm going to die anyway. Everything causes cancer. So what's the big deal? Is it that this substance is that much more harmful? And do we have studies to show, that it's killing gut bacteria and everything?
Yes. There are more and more medical studies coming out proving that this toxin is extremely bad for the body. And, you can say things are really are bad for you and things give you cancer, etc. But once you have been through the living hell of Botox illness, you will understand just how bad it is, because it is a living hell. I didn't sleep for months. I was a mess, a complete mess. I was a healthy person. I had a full-time job. I went to the gym every day. I used to go swimming a lot. I ended up a shaking wreck for years. I couldn't exercise. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't work. It just ruined my whole life. And it's a living hell because when your neurological system isn't working properly, you're anxious and shivering and shaking and you can't move properly and you have heart palpitations and you're coughing all the time and you can't see properly. I mean, I was blind for 2 weeks, completely blind, and I only had partial vision for almost 2 years. And these were from a few injections in my forehead,
A few?
Yes. That was it. Yeah.
Then the concern I have is that, I currently live in Orange County, California. Yeah. And this is the plastic capital of the world, where this is kind of where it began, actually. In fact, you guys would have heard me speak about this in the intro, that someone that I know in Orange County was with the founder of, or the whatever you want to call it, creator of Botox. And she said herself, there's a reason why I will never inject Botox in my body.
What bothers me the most about this product is that they have not developed a protocol for helping people when things go wrong.
Right.
And
that was one of my questions too.
Yeah. They have no medical protocol. So even if you go to a doctor who's going to be really helpful, they'll put their hands up in the air and say there is no medical protocol for treating people when things go wrong. Now, normally, if a medicine comes onto the market, there will be a protocol for treating people. if the medicine affects you badly. But nothing was invented for Botox. So was this just rushed onto the market? I believe it was, because there is no information for doctors. They don't know what to do. People land up in ER and the doctors don't know what to do. They panic.
Wasn't Botox used as some kind of toxin during, I can't remember which war?
Yeah, it's a biological weapon.
So what were they using it for? Was it to paralyze people?
I don't know. I presume they were using it to kill people because it's very effective.
Yeah.
In high doses, it kills people. You go into cardiac and respiratory arrest, and that's the end of you. So I guess that was the end game.
Yeah. And then do you know how it became that we decided to start injecting it into our bodies?
There was a lady in Canada who, I think a couple, I can't remember her name, but I've got a video I could pass on to you. A lady in Canada, a doctor, who discovered that it paralyzed areas of the body really well. And she decided to do a little bit of testing and then came with this fantastic breakthrough, as she said. And then it hopped onto the market off-label at that point as a cosmetic product. And it's interesting, bless you, it's interesting to watch her video. It's very interesting. She has a TED Talk. And in her TED Talk, she talks about this. Now, she's had a lot of Botox. And it's very interesting to watch her talk because something's not right with her.
Oh.
Something is not right. I can see, because I've had that illness, I can see that she's suffering.
You mean the illness of body dysmorphia?
No, not body dysmorphia. She's got the symptoms of Botox illness, neurological symptoms.
If someone's listening,
yeah,
because I have a lot of questions about what are the possible side effects. Like if we can go through a list of, in the Facebook group, I was so surprised to read all of the stories.
That's
a long list for those of you who are just listening to this. And I encourage you to go to the website, dianekj.com, and we will post this link with all the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one hell of a list. The list I have is, of course, the side effects that are listed in the pamphlets that come with the products and all the most common side effects from the group. We have done quite a few surveys in the group over the years, and we have, of course, compiled all the most common side effects. And these are them. It's a whole typed page full. And those are only common ones. Those aren't ones that one or two people have.
Can you read some of those?
Well, I can
you read some of those out loud?
Panic attacks, general anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, depersonalization, confusion, loss of emotion, brain fog, electrical zaps in the brain, sudden fainting, temporary paralysis, stroke, blurred vision, vision loss, dry eyes, drooping eyes, involuntary frown response, collapsed face, hourglass deformation, facial eye twitches, involuntary body spasms, dry mouth, mouth ulcers, involuntary mouth movements, itching on arms and legs, vertigo, heart palpitations, irregular heartbeat, difficulty swallowing, hair loss, loss of libido, muscle spasms, feeling that something's crawling under the skin, breathing issues, feeling that something's restricting your chest, shortness of breath, intense neck and jaw stiffness, pain, clenching, nerve issues, numbness in hands and feet, fever, burning sensations under the skin, internal shaking, loud ringing in ears, blocked ears, tight feeling around the head, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach issues, severe constipation, paralyzed bowel, appetite loss, bladder issues, repeat UTIs, hormonal issues, extreme symptoms around menstruation for ladies, erectile dysfunction for men, dry flaky skin, boils on head and neck, sleep issues, early waking, insomnia, facial pain, nerve pain, muscle atrophy, big one, hormone imbalances, thyroid dysfunction, adrenal dysfunction, sensitivity to light and sound, sensitivity to many medications and supplements, loss of taste, loss of smell, food allergies and sensitivities that you never had before, and caffeine and alcohol sensitivity. Those are all common symptoms that more than 100 people would have reported. Sometimes up to 2,000 people reporting these, 3,000, 4,000.
Wow.
That's a hell of a list.
You know, I just texted myself a picture so that I could actually show people something I have not yet posted on social media as of this moment. And where you just took me is now questioning whether or not the symptoms that I was having that I associated with breast implant illness, if they were potentially from Botox illness. And the reason I say this is that, and I have to go back in my timelines and see exactly where this was when I last had my Botox injections. And it was a trip that I went in, and it was like a new person. At that point, before that appointment, I had only had 2 sessions, and I had 3 injections here for my what's called 11s, which means that those are your anger, you can't express anger, which when I really think about women especially, and the years of misogynistic types of things that we've experienced and putting us down and telling us we have to be happy and put together and docile, we've never, in the last, I can't think of how long it's been encouraged by culture to have healthy expressions of anger and rage. And I don't mean this from an unhealthy perspective, but any kind of emotions that we are suppressing, then we are, and expressing becomes depressing to us. It's swallowed emotions. And when you think about layering that on top of Botox, which numbs out, and this is what I'm really concerned about, Botox communicates to the brain. I learned this in your group, that it numbs out some of our ability to actually perceive emotions based on kind of like how our expressions are. Yeah. And I have to go back in the chronicles, and I'll by the time people are hearing this, I will have recorded it in the intro, but I'm just in this point where you were talking about excessive itching, like extremely excessive itching. Yes. And feeling like I had bugs crawling under me. Yes. I want to show my face, and I'm waiting for this text to come through so I can show you guys. It was a hellish time for me. I had pills in my hand, and I was thinking about ending my life. I was miserable with breast implant illness and probably Botox illness at the same time. And that was when I was an all-time low, and I knew how to do something different. So I will show that when it pops up. I wanted you to, if you could, speak about that, because when I think about not being able to express emotions to people, what can that do to the brain?
Yes, well, what that can do to the brain is invert your emotions. So instead of them coming out, everything's sitting inside. And I don't know if you know much about depression, but what depression is all about, it's your emotions that are trapped inside your body and can't get out, and you turn inward. And this is what happens to a lot of people after they have Botox, developing 2 reasons. One is because the neurotransmitters in your brain get affected, and it's been proved that neurotransmitters such as serotonin gets badly affected by Botox. So it's not just the acetylcholine that gets affected that they tell you, it's actually all your neurotransmitters, because once it gets into your brain, there they are. And this can cause depression, and the lack of emotion on top of that will also exacerbate that and cause depression as well. And of course, anxiety. So, you know, I am a psychotherapist by profession, so I'm very aware.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Aww.
So
and you were getting Botox and numbing out your emotions.
Exactly.
Isn't that funny? We're both practitioners. We're both health practitioners.
Exactly. And there's lots of us, and we've all made these same mistakes. You know, we all told it's safe and it's okay, and off we go. But, you know, we found out to our detriment that it's not safe at all. Yes, I've been doing a lot of research around and the mental stuff that happens when you develop neurotoxicity.
I work with women and helping them to cleanse out neurotoxins.
Sure.
And it was specifically, and this is part of my practice, is helping them with the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical aspects of cleansing the body, the harmful effects of breast implants. One thing that completely perplexed me and shook me wide open, and the reason I asked you to do this today is, number one, I was getting, you know, when I was in the group and I started posting about like, hey guys, let's also consider there's breast implants too. And there's a whole bunch of other toxins, but also, you know, we want to clean up everything, give our body the best chance possible to heal and get this crap out as fast as possible. Yeah. But there still isn't, like you said earlier, there's no protocol to cleanse this stuff out of our body. Is there? Does it leave the body? How long is it in the body?
Well, this is the problem. They don't know. I have spoken to researchers, I've spoken to scientists, biologists, medical professionals, neurologists, and nobody can give me a finite answer. Nobody. They say, you know, when they say it takes 6 to 9 months to leave your system, that is just absolutely nonsense. Because studies in Eastern
Where do they
Europe,
get that? Where do they?
I don't know. But studies have proven that there have been people that have had, I don't know if you know what the mouse bioassay test is. It's all about, they take your blood or they take cells out of your body and they inject it into a mouse. And this was 5 to 7 years after people had injections and the mice died. The mice died.
Whoa.
Of botulism poisoning. How
did they know it was from the Botox?
Because if there was nothing in these people's bodies, the mouse wouldn't have died. And what they've also done in other studies, apparently also in Europe, is that they have detected proteins in the body that come with your Botox injection. I don't know if you know about what's in the injections. Botox and Dysport.
No, that was another question we had for today. Okay. Yeah, like what's in it?
Well, Botox and Dysport both have what they call protective proteins, which they put in. And part of that is human albumin. So it's human blood plasma that gets put in with your Botox and Dysport.
Whoa.
Now, this comes with a whole other host of things because we don't know whether diseases like Lyme, etc., can be transmitted through human albumin. There's no guarantees about this. So this is another
Where do they get blood for humans? Where do they get this blood? I mean, it's not that vaccinations.
People donate blood, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so now these proteins have been detected in the blood, still clinging on to botulism molecules 5 to 7 years after people have had injections. So what does that say? Maybe it doesn't leave the body, but some of these people were almost healthy. So what that tells us is that over time, it obviously becomes weaker and weaker, but it doesn't necessarily ever leave the body. We don't know that. Nobody knows. Just another thing I'd like to say quickly about Dysport, because a lot of people don't know this. Dysport also contains lactose. So if you're lactose intolerant or allergic to milk, you must not have Dysport injections, and people are not told this. And some people have severe anaphylactic reactions to Dysport injections, and it's because they contain suppose. So this is another thing that I think people should know. Now there's a third toxin which is called zeomin. You might have heard of it, as well as Botox and Dysport. Now zeomin does not have any additives. It doesn't have the protein with it. I don't know why that is, but so it makes it far less detectable in the blood and in the system.
But it still is toxic?
Oh,
like is that an alternative to Botox?
We still have a lot of zeomin casualties in our group, so it doesn't seem to make a difference. People thought it was safer.
Yeah.
People thought it was safer when it first came out because it's a recent product. But unfortunately, we are seeing more and more zeomin casualties. So, at the end of the day, it's the toxins and not the additives and not the proteins that are making people so terribly ill. But it's good for people to know. Another thing, if I can just add quickly, is that the toxins have different viscosities. So some of them are thinner than others. Dysport is the thinnest of all. And why they thin out Dysport is to make it work quicker. But because of that, it's thinner and it can spread more easily. So toxins spread. A lot of people say they've had Botox for years, then they had Dysport, then they got ill. I think Dysport is probably the worst offender of all of them. They're all bad, but Dysport has more propensity to spread in the body. So I think that's just important for people to know.
Very much so. Very much so. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I wanted to add to that and ask you another question. Because I live in Orange County, close to Mexico, right? Yeah. This is where many people go for cheaper treatments. And there's some places that are amazing there that are California doctors or practitioners who have gone across the border so they can practice more alternative medicine because of California and American laws and regulations.
Sure.
And then there's other people who are duplicating things that are still toxic. So, this is where people say, oh, don't go down to Mexico because this is, they're more toxic down there, but it's not all the way true. That's where I get my dental work done for like a fifth of the price with their holistic dentist. However, there are, I don't know who these people are. I just know that one of my very good friends has invited me several times and I've declined, obviously. She says there's a team of doctors or whoever they are. I don't even know if they're doctors, but they're a team of people, let's just say, that come from Mexico, and they bring the injections and they have Botox parties at whoever's house that wants to have them. And so they're injecting Botox. And what happened with one of my friends is she texted me one day, and this was right after I was reading stuff in your group, is that she had droopy eye and it wouldn't come back. Like she looked like this.
Yeah, that's eye
she like half droopy eye.
Yeah, it's eye.
Does that come back?
Your apoptosis will correct itself in time once the toxin becomes weaker, and you can also get drops to put in the eye, which helps that immediately, so that instead of having it for 4, 5, 6 weeks or 2 months, you'll have it for like 3 weeks. It can happen with the most proficient plastic surgeon can give you injections, and that can happen. It's just something that sometimes happens. It's a wee bit too much in the muscle and the whole eye droops. But I've spoken to many doctors, surgeons, injectors, and they've said, no, it can happen to anybody. And it can happen with the most proficient surgeon as well. So, it's risky.
You know what? I want to show you guys this picture, and then I want to open it up for some Q&A for some people. A lot of my followers, I think, you guys, my followers, you're my heroes too. You guys have been on this journey with me, and you have cheered me on and encouraged me to speak the truth. And I wouldn't be here doing this without you. It takes ears to listen for a mouth to want to speak and hearts to receive it and minds to implement it. And all of your questions that you sent to me, I'm honored that you care about your temple enough to ask us these questions. And I'm also honored that once you hear this message, that you will share this everywhere you go. This is important because if our body, our organs, our minds, our reproductive system is frozen, that is the end of humanity. It is the end. We can't reproduce with our organs frozen. And this is something that affects everybody differently. And that's going to be one of the questions is why does it affect some people differently than others? And as a transition, I want to show you guys a picture of me when I had some eye droop. And this is very interesting. So make sure that you can see my picture here. Can you? This picture on the left is me when I just had about $250 worth of Botox injected. And I'd never had that much at the time. That was my third time having an injection done. But this time it wasn't just my 11s. It was all over my face. She probably injected me about 30 times. And I was puzzled. I was like, I can't believe how many times she's injected me. So after that, I went home. And within a week, my right eye was so droopy that I reached out to her and I said, I'm not sure if this is right. And she texted me back and she said, come back in, I'll inject you more because I don't even know. Something about the muscles, I don't know. I listened to her. I went back in and I had more done. But I told her I didn't want a lot, but I wanted to correct this eye droop problem. This second picture here is about around the same time I decided I wanted to dye my hair pink because it would be fun. I'm also adding to my toxic load with this pink hair dye. Shortly thereafter, within about 10 days, my eyes look like this third picture here. I got extremely swollen, and I still have to kind of check my timeline here too, admittedly, because it was probably around the same time where I had Botox and pink hair put on at the same time. It just didn't make the connection while also having breast implants. This fourth picture over here on the right is me 2 weeks after having my breast implants removed. And this is me finally having life inside of my body, but I'm still having issues even 8 months after having my breast implants removed. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's still the Botox. I don't know if it's still the breast implants, but what I do know is that we all react differently. Yeah. So I'm empowered because you have just given me more things to research, and I'm going to share this with my medical practitioner community because we have some extreme geniuses in there who are well-versed on neurotoxicity, genetics, epigenetics, detoxification, and how all of this affects the body. So I really hope that someone steps up to this because we have some of the smarter people in my community that if they have a heart and they care, then they'll be able to take this session with us and really research this. So thank you for cluing me into the possibility that some of these things may have not been my breast implant, even though it adds to the problem, of course, and I'm still struggling with things. But I wanted to ask the question and move into this one about that question. You know, I had a slew of things. Why do some people react and some people don't react, or do they and they just don't know? Does everybody react to Botox?
Okay, well, basically, if you have toxin spread, things are going to go wrong, no matter who you are or how resistant you are to the toxin. If you have toxin spread, you're going to have all these symptoms. But people that don't have toxin spread, some people are okay and fine, and other people have symptoms. We are not quite sure why. We've done a lot of research in the group. We've done a lot of questionnaires. We've asked about the MTHFR gene mutation, and it's 50-50.
Yeah.
So that hasn't led us anywhere. We've done a little bit more.
Really?
It seems that as many people have it who don't have it, who are getting ill from Botox. So there isn't a correlation there. I've been to speak to a geneticist, doctor who went through all this with me, and he wasn't really sure either, you know, because I got a few people's gene analysis things from 23andMe, a few people shared, and we took it to this doctor and he had a look, and he couldn't find anything similar with all of us. We all had different mutations and we were all sick with Botox. So, you know, if there's a study maybe of 1,000 people, they might be able to find something. But with a handful of us, they certainly couldn't see anything. So the gene factor might be there, but, you know, it'll need a big study to be able to really define whether that makes a difference or not. So at the end of the day, we don't really know, but accumulation of the toxin definitely makes a difference, because we have a lot of people in the group that have had a lot of Botox, sometimes for medical reasons, and then become terribly ill, and they seem to take the longest to get better. So I think
that's a question.
It's done a lot of damage. You know, maybe you didn't feel the symptoms so much, but it's been eating you away in the background, so to speak. And
that was one of the questions. Sorry, that was one of the questions that actually three of my followers had asked that question, because I've worked with a lot of people who have used Botox for migraines and Botox for anal fissures and hernias or hemorrhoids. And so these things are being injected in a lot of places, and or also Parkinson's and having nerve-related issues. So these are being used as Band-Aids in medical treatments, and they're calling them miracles. What is your perspective on how many people are actually having the injections for medical purposes versus for cosmetics? Is it half and half across the board?
We don't know, because no proper statistics have been taken. So we have no idea. In the support group, it looks like pretty much 50-50. You've got to remember, though, that people who have Botox for medical conditions are often having 10 or 20 times more put in their bodies than people are having for cosmetic purposes. They have huge...
Why?
Yeah, they have huge amounts injected into. I mean, the units are just, 50, 100, 150, ridiculous amounts. This is what happens.
Oh, God.
The sad part about this is almost every medical condition that these toxins are injected in can be treated with other medicines, or can be treated with, for instance, an anal fissure, can be sewn up. It's surgery. It's simple. But no, they give Botox injections. And we have people in the group now, they cannot sit down. It's awful.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this. Yeah, this is a question, and we can start wrapping it up here. So maybe another 5 minutes or so, if that's okay with you. Sure. And then I might have you back if you're okay with that, because I know that this is going to cause a pretty big uproar, and in a good way. People are going to want to defend their temples. They're going to want to ask more questions. So if you're okay with that, I'd love to have you back.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots more to talk about. This is just like skimming the surface.
Yeah. This is totally. It's just like, here's one little seed. Here's like a whole new world down here.
Yeah.
For medical and for cosmetic, I'm asking for two different, you just mentioned, and you hit the nail on the head, which is what several of my clients and followers have asked. And that is there an alternative to this? Because when I'm thinking about two different sides, you said that there are healthier alternatives to some of these medical treatments. And then on the cosmetic side, many of us are so deeply ingrained in this cultural programming that we need to be photoshopped. So I don't accept that. I think that there is a deeper way of handling the root cause issue, which is radical self-acceptance and self-love and body positivity that you can only do in your side of yourself. That is an inside job. And to not do Botox is flipping the bird to the medical spa industry and the people who are not looking out for us. So this is a conscious choice that you get to make on your own. Do you want a healthier alternative to Botox? And I get it. I look at my wrinkles and I go, wow, I'm aging. How do I feel about this? So I'd love to talk about those two different options. I mean, Botox across the board. Is there healthier alternatives to either one? Having what I'd say is, you guys watch my non-toxic beauty summit, because we talk all about this. And as far as healthy alternatives like skincare treatments and stuff like that. But I'd love to hear it from you. What are people doing that they're seeing benefits of, if there are any, how to reduce wrinkles?
Well, first of all, healthy eating, exercise, not spending too much time in the sun, all the obvious ones. And, at the end of the day, wait until you're 60 and have a facelift if you need it, if you feel. Surgery has its risks, but it's not putting toxins in your body. If you really feel that desperate, go and find a proper surgeon and go and have a facelift. If it's really...
You're so cute.
As far as I'm concerned, age gracefully, enjoy life. This planet's falling to pieces. Just go out and have a good time and enjoy life, and be nice and enjoy your friends and, embrace what you've got. And don't worry about those lines and wrinkles. It's an incredibly powerful advertising industry playing on your insecurities. You don't need it. And we've all fallen for that, all of us.
Yeah.
No matter who we are.
Yeah.
Most females and a lot of males too fall for it. It's clever marketing. It plays on your weaknesses. We all get old. We're meant to, older and wiser and should be happier. We shouldn't be left to be paranoid and panicky about the inevitable, should we?
Paranoid and paralyzed.
Yeah, exactly. That's my opinion. And I think there are a lot of healthy things you can do. Go out and exercise, enjoy yourself, swim in the sea. Do something spiritual. Go and help somebody who needs help. Go and be kind, be nice, and you'll feel good. It's simple, and we all forget the most simple things in life. We really do.
Yeah.
And I
this
think
is a good.
Yeah, and healthy eating, so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things about eating healthy too. And also, collagen supplements. I mean, these are things that we can build from the inside out. Yeah. And I myself have seen about 2 weeks ago and I don't know if this is part of it too, Jenny, my whole arm has been numb. I've been working with nerve issues. I'm in and out of the chiropractor. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with my arm. I don't know if this is, who knows? I do know it's a severely pinched nerve. I have I did an MRI.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now is, you could probably see it's even like, I'm wondering if it's some capsular contracture that I had from my breast implants. It feels like there's some scar tissue in here. It could be a combination of both. I don't know, but I have severely compressed nerves on my C5, C6, C7, and it's causing this like numbness and radiation and tingling all down my arm where I need to keep doing this and I can't kind of sit like this. And so, it's probably a postural thing. It's possibly a neurotoxic thing. It's a structural thing, genetic thing. There's all combinations of things. But have you heard this before in Botox, where people kind of like?
Yes, and you know what it normally is. When did you last have your injections? How many years ago?
It was probably about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. So what happens sometimes? What we think happens is that you still have muscle weakness from the toxin. If the toxin has spread even a little bit, and where it spreads is neck and shoulders often, you may have muscle weakness. And because you've got little patches of muscle weakness, you're straining your shoulder. And this is what's causing all the problems, because your nerves get inflamed around those muscles. And it could be Botox related. We have a lot of people, I had this last year. I had it on my left side, and my hand kept going numb, etc. And I'm 5 years out, and I'm convinced it's from the Botox, because I never had any of these things before in my life. And I'd been going to the gym, and I'd been doing slightly heavier weights, but nothing that would give me muscle strain. And I suddenly started getting all this pain, and it was all stiff all the way down here. And it almost felt like I had carpal tunnel in my wrist. And I think
that's exactly what I thought I had. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's from the Botox, personally, because we've had so many people with the same thing.
Oh,
sorry.
And then even for me as a practitioner, totally. I'm glad you're telling me this stuff. I'm like, well, okay, then, of course, the next question is, well, how do I get this shit out of my body? Get it out. So it just. We have more work to do. We have more work to do. And I have go ahead.
Yeah. There are ways of detoxing. I went on a course of taking serapeptase, which is an enzyme, but I had such bad relapses from it, I had to stop. I know that gets it out of the body, but it also kills you in the process.
That's just it too, because it's leaving the body and it can reinfect it on the way out if it doesn't get it all the way out. So that's a great place to end. And then also a great place to start for part 2 is if you're going to do a detox, it is dangerous to do this on your own. It is very dangerous. And you'll also want to quit. Yeah.
Definitely. You need guidance. Can I just stop you for a second? I would advise people in the first year after having Botox, if they're ill, not to detox. Your body's too weak. It can't do it. A detox makes things a whole lot worse. So until your most violent symptoms have left you, I would never advise someone to detox, because we've had people ending up in emergency rooms from detoxing. So
okay, that might have been me. That might have been me. I mean, I had Botox done. I'd still have to go back on my timeline, and when we do part 2, I'll talk more about my timeline and my findings, because I had Botox and then soon thereafter got an infrared sauna, and that's when I started really noticing that I was having the worst symptoms of like scratching my skin until it bled in the middle of the night, thinking there were bugs all over me, like just completely miserable. So I wonder if I did just that.
Very
Yikes.
possibly.
This is some scary shit.
Because you stimulated all those nerve endings, and that's what gives you all the creepy crawly feeling. It's all
God, right?
Peripheral nerve stuff.
Okay. I'm so grateful for you. No, I know. And it's like, well, we get to be the generation that educates the next one to not do it. You know, everywhere I go shopping, and I'm telling women why I'm shopping. I've got new boobs. They're my small ones. They're my, 34 Cs. It's not super small, but I had double D fake ones. And and they're like, oh my gosh, you're shopping for new things to fit these new boobs. I'm so excited and so proud. And they're so interested. They're like, oh, really? Like, that's bad. Oh, and so I just encourage anybody who's listening to this, you are not infringing on anybody's life by sharing this. You are possibly saving a life by sharing this. I didn't even know the things that you just shared with me. So I now owe my body an apology and even more radical self-love. And I also feel as though I owe it to people in your group and everybody, getting these doctors that I know together and saying, can we come up with a plan? Because I know there are studies, and I will link them on the show notes below. I know there are studies that other health practitioners in my group have shown me of how they're seeing that Botox is causing Hashimoto's, autoimmune diseases. There are studies all over. So anything that you would be happy to share with us as far as links, I'm going to just like all of them below in this episode so people can share and read.
Have you looked at our file section? We've got a file.
I've been all over it.
In the group,
Yeah, I've spent days in there.
I know.
Yeah, so whatever the most like potent and relevant ones that you have, like the ones we talked about today, and I'll email you with them. So, I know there's a gut one, there was like the brain one, affecting neurotransmitters. So I'll email you. So we have all of those below. You guys, this is going to take us to a part 2. So any questions that you have on this episode of Botox, and also I'd love to talk with you about fillers next time as well, if that's okay with you too. Do you have a good framework for fillers?
Not really. That's
awesome.
Not my
we'll go with a part 2.
But we know we have a lot of filler people in our Botox group. So all the time.
Awesome. Okay, great. If you guys have any questions specifically about Botox and maybe about fillers, we can try to answer them. If she knows how to answer them, go to dianekaiser.com/ask. Any questions that you have, they will be filtered to my email, and I can ask them personally on another episode, just like I did on this one. But for now, you guys, thank you again so much, Jenna, for being here today. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing, for spreading this mission. I know it's a risk because people are going to get angry at us threatening the topic for talking about this, but it needs to be done. It really needs to be done.
Thank you for having me. It was great. I'm looking forward to part 2.
Yes, part 2. Okay, great. And we will tune out for now. Thank you again for being here, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If this episode really tugged at your soul and you're ready to have your personal breakthrough, we would love to have a heart-to-heart with you to get you crystal clear on 3 things. What do you want? What's standing in your way? And how do we get you to your soul goal in the fastest time possible? Visit my site, dianekaiser.com/call to schedule your free 1-hour connection session with one of our warriors to map out exactly how you want to look, feel, and live. We've helped thousands of women warriors just like you all around the world free themselves from the symptoms and suffering they never thought possible. And you just might be our next success story. Talk soon.